Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. The Nature of Creation, by Wayne C. Walter. The nature and timing of God's curse on the creation. Its announcement to man is given in Genesis 3. But in order to understand it, we must see it through Romans 8 verses 20 to 21. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. First, let's look at the nature of this curse, as expressed in the word vanity. The Greek word mateos and its derivatives appear 11 times in the King James Version New Testament. The noun mateos is translated vain or vanities and is used 6 times. The adjective word matiotes, that occurs 3 times, is vanity. The adverb maton appears 2 times as in vain. Now something that is mateos is specifically deceptive or ineffectual. And matiotes is something that appears to be useful while in reality it is not. Thus Paul is saying, though nature appears to be functioning as God designed, it is not. The noun form is used in Romans verse 20, it is defined as emptiness, futility, temporary, lasting but a short time. In the book of Ecclesiastes, where Solomon seems to focus on one living his life without a thought toward God, the Septuagint used the adjective form of our word understudy to convey the thought of vanity. The Hebrew word was hebel, meaning useless to the point of being evil toward God. Solomon focused on vanity that seemed on the surface to fulfill, but in actuality is not simply harmless, but distinctively useless, even evil. Paul used this word in Ephesians 4 verses 17 to 18, that ye not walk as other Gentiles walk in the vanity of their mind, having their understanding darkened, alienated from the life of God. The word for life here refers to the vital life force of God. There are 4 shades of meaning for the word life in the Scriptures, so take heed to the one the Spirit chose to use here. Again in 2 Peter 2 verse 18, this word vanity is used to describe the great swelling words of vanity that false teachers speak to allure even those who were escaped from such a lifestyle. And what do those teachers appeal to? Why, the former life of matiotes, that which appears to be useful but is not. A favorite expression is, so I'm useless, at least I'm not harming anyone. This statement is dead wrong. Please see, vanity, matiotes, doesn't mean that which simply has no purpose, but that which does not function as it was designed to do. Thus we see all of nature and man's lifestyle and man's speech, all were originally designed to exist in compliance with God's will. In understanding this, one can readily see that one must indeed be in part delivered from the matiotes, to be in a condition to at all estimate it for what it truly is. Before we leave this word vanity and go on, let us compare mateos with its companion Greek word for vanity, kenos, which means a thing is vain because it is without content. They do appear once together in a common text. 1 Corinthians 15 verses 10 and 14 mean kenos, and verse 17 means mateos. So it would read thus, the grace that was bestowed upon me was not without content. If Christ be not risen, then our preaching is without content, and your faith is also without content. And finally verse 17, and if Christ be not raised, your faith, while appearing to be useful, is not. As we have studied the nature of the curse somewhat, let us look as well upon the timing of it. The timing is observed in the use of the word subjected. First of all, it refers to an event completed in the past, when the creation was acted upon by an outside agent. The verb subjected is in the passive voice, which means there was a force outside of the whole of creation that subjected it to futility and the bondage of corruption. Paul used an impersonal passive to veil God's presence in the matter, but God indeed was the agent at work in this little verb. The verb is used in the Greek aorist tense, which is used to refer to an event in the past. In Romans 8 verse 20, Paul used a cumulative aorist, which means he wished to view the event in its entirety, and to see at the same moment the present existing results, which is, all of creation is living and functioning under the condition of being subject to futility to the point of being against God. Now we have two options as to when this past event occurred. Let's look at Genesis 1 verse 1. How does this timing affect Christian theology? If God cursed creation from the beginning, there can be no real answer to the problem of evil, for death and pain and suffering are considered the result of evil and will be removed, Revelation 21 verse 4, in the new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. God's word states that everything that was made was very good. Genesis 1 verse 31. And, if we insist that Genesis 1 verse 2 was the time of creation's subjection to vanity, we make a lie of Romans 5 verses 12 to 17, which states, Wherefore, by one man sin entered the world, and so death by sin passed upon all men. Verse 14, Death reigned from Adam to Moses. Verse 17, For by one man's offense death reigned. Abbreviations mine. All of a man's work tells of his character and ability, and thus it is with God. He cannot do a work that is not consistent with his person. And if God had created his systems with decay and corruption from the beginning, then nothing would suffice to change anything God had made. There are arguments of man that persist in seeing this earth as being made over by God from a chaotic condition between Genesis 1 verse 1 and verse 2. It's referred to as the gap theory, and was introduced as an answer to the great swelling words of the evolutionist by the church, embarrassed that her God had given her just the simple facts of creation instead of the worldly wisdom that the evolutionists exalted. Namely, that the epitome of science was according to the stupendous, superfluous, serendipitous exact laws of chance, governed by the profundity of absolute randomness. So the church, not wanting to appear foolish, said, See, God allowed for all that time and chance to do its perfect work, between his act of initial creation and the time later when the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and we even pass off Isaiah 24 verses 1 to 6 as proof of the first time God made waste and formless the earth. So, we thus shoot ourselves in the foot, by making Isaiah's statement concerning the flood account to apply between Genesis 1 verse 1 and 2. Well, please excuse my tirade. Creation became subject to vanity and corruption in Genesis 3 verse 14, till the end of the chapter. And praise his holy name, he has subjected the same in hope. And the creature itself shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. Paraphrase mine. Romans 8 verses 20 and 21.